Welcome to the 10th chapter. No one wants to hear me. I just thought I'd do this while I had time. I got called a wanker before because when I do a video, I watch it back before I publish it to make sure that I've got all my facts straight and that sort of thing. And my eldest daughter and wife called me a wanker, so that's all right. I don't mind. I've been called worse than that. Anyway, welcome to the 10th episode, or chapter if you like, on the XC restoration. And this one, the car really does look a lot different now. And of course, a lot of it's been paint stripping, that sort of thing. I lost a couple of frames, or a couple of little segments that I'd shot, in that I deleted them off this camera prematurely, ran out of memory, that sort of thing. So I've done that before a few times actually, and I've really missed out on some really good stuff in prematurely deleting stuff, but it doesn't matter. But the main thing is I've got a bit of it. So normally what I do with these sorts of things is I'll spend half an hour one day, 2 hours the next day, just doing little bits and pieces like that to get it out of the way. And I got sick of it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to spend a day. And I came out, I squared it with the neighbours, I squared it with Susie. The kids are at school, so that's cool. And I just came in here and blitzed it, and I got a heap done in that full day. But I normally don't like doing that because of the noise and that sort of thing that I make. But I managed to get it all out the way then. So this is the 10th episode. The car looks a lot different now, and I hope you enjoy it. So not a Kofa.
Wait, what?
Yeah, mix out a carb. Actually, it's probably easier if you use that jug thing.
So Charlie, what have you got there?
I don't know. Something that's white.
Well, what is it?
Mix it in.
Okay, so it's icing sugar.
Started rubbing parts of this back. This is in the centre of the roof. It looks like it's had one of those middle aerials, or centre roof aerials, so it's a little bit ripply there, so I'll fill that. I'll just get rid of that little bit of surface rust there, and I'll fill that, and that'll be indistinguishable. It'll be good. Around the rest of it, a couple of high spots like that. There's another one down there, and what else? This all looks pretty good. There's a little bit of surface there underneath that filler, so that's all got to come out. Up here where the other surface rust was is really clean, that's good. And around the back here, so I'll take more of that off. There's a great big low spot there, so I've got to work on that a bit. But all the metal again is clean. Now this is a paint stripping disc, and it's like a fibrous plastic thing, and it just obviously goes in an angle grinder. You can't use it on enamel paints. You can see that brown in there, that's from the XW. It'll just fill it up with this chewing gum type stuff, and then you bug it, you can't do anything with it. But this is an old disc, and like any cutting or grinding disc, if you're gentle with them, they'll last forever. And this one, as I said, was bought for the XW. I haven't used it much on this, or that for that matter, but it has lasted. And it's great for getting paint and filler out. Got to get a little bit more in there, just to have a look at these A-pillars and any joints and so forth. A little spot there, just wipe straight off. Particularly good for wiping surface rust out. Along here you can see that. And you can see I've just gone along the top of this, and the good thing about it is it doesn't take metal out. But it does heat it up, so you want to be very, very, very careful if you're doing straight panels with them. You want them to just run clean and smooth. You want them to just run cool. So, but this was sort of covered in sort of surface rust, you know, a bit, not even surface rust, just muck really, and it just wipes that straight out. Beautiful, and they're not even that expensive either. Well, I tell you what, this absolutely sucks doing this, but there is some good news so far. I've only just begun doing this sort of paint removal and cleaning up. Around the window looks brilliant, absolutely great so far. I've only done this side, and drip rails here are really good as well. And you can see, if I run down there, how good and clean they are. Little bits like this. There's a little bit of activity that's begun there I should say. Got to clean out a bit more filler there. That will clean up well with Pour 15. I'm not going to cut anything or weld anything there, it doesn't need it. And also in this area here there is some pitting, and that doesn't look that great. But again, it hasn't gone through. I think that's all right. But the rest of this is all good. A little bit of pitting here. And people have just put filler over the pitting, and I don't understand that. Of course, you get down to here and we're in that bottom corner, and that's lovely too with the factory brazing and all that sort of stuff there, so that's cool. Got to clean up this bit of guttering here. I spot welded the other piece that I made. This one I actually plug welded and did a lousy job of it, so I'll redo that bit there. There's the patch I put in. It's quite a big patch, but that's all nice and clean now, so that's cool. Boot rails. Now, the people, I don't know why they do this, but they put filler in there. I've seen this a few times. I'll change angle, the lighting's not very good. And that is a no-no. It's a terribly, terribly short-sighted thing to do, and the reason for that is because moisture gets underneath your boot seal 9 times out of 10, and of course then it gets underneath filler, and of course you've got rust on your hands then, which is no good. So we'll clean all that out so it's nice and bright and shiny, and then put Pour 15 in. We'll fill that with Pour 15. Still stripping the sides. Down here's all good. It's had a repair done here. It's a little bit ripply there in the metal. It's been welded, I think. But there was a little skim of filler on there. I'm not worried about that. It's all good. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to, fill that. I'm not going to cut it or do anything with that, so that's fine. And so I'll keep taking paint off up the side. And I'll take it all out of the jams. And I'll take it all off the bees. And all under here as well has to come out as well, because I want to check that there's no rust or any activity there. I've been asked why I didn't media blast, and I'd love to media blast, but it's I got quoted at $2,500, and it's sort of $2,500 I haven't got, and I wanted to put that more towards parts. So although this sort of stinks doing it this way by hand, I'm going to keep going with it. About the only parts that aren't going to have paint all removed off them are the turret. I'll take it back a little bit further, but it's very easy to buckle a panel with heat, and I just don't want to. So I'll take it off the turret a little bit more, but I won't go bare metal up on the roof, and I won't go bare metal in sort of some of the midsection here, but all around the edges and all down the bottom, sort of from the waistline down, will all be bare metal. So there's a lot of work to do yet. I'm just going to put the camera down and crack on with it. Now you can see here where there's a little bit of surface rust, sort of this area here, and I'm going to take this paint off here too. I'm just going to use phosphoric acid on there. Now, rust converters are pretty much rubbish, but you've got to remember the main ingredient of dioxidine, Pour 15 metal ready, and rust converter is in fact phosphoric acid. So phosphoric acid only goes very, very shallow into the rust, so as long as you get absolutely all of it off, so you're just left with a stain, then it's alright to use that there. But it's when you have scaly rust and people put it on and think it's gone. It doesn't penetrate very deeply at all, so everything has to come out. I might even take that back a bit more. It just looks a little bit stained at the moment. That was where there was a big sort of chunk of surface rust in it. It sort of crept under the paint, so we have to make sure that's completely gone. Beautiful. I have to do a bit more here. There's the patch I put in there. This all looks good. Well, first they call me a wanker, then they kick me out of the kitchen because the kettle makes too much noise while they're watching television. So now I've got to make them out in the garage. Now I haven't cleaned up some areas all that well. We can get I don't want to get the car wet now because of the amount of bare metal that's exposed, but rather than getting a can of brake clean, I've just got some old petrol from in the tank, or out of the tank. I've just put in this old touch-up gun, and I can just rinse off, scrub away any grease that's there. And this way also, I mean, you're actually washing away a lot of that dirty petrol, and it's just sort of falling to the ground and evaporate off. But it's better than sort of compromising the car by getting it wet at this point. It just all sort of flushes away, you can see there. And because I actually neglected to clean some of this properly. I'm going to cut this up. How much is this? Oh, here we go. 250 grams, are you serious? Do I have to mop the whole thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
No, alignment, that's the
Try to
knife.
stop. Yep.
This is quite...
Oh my gosh.
we have to make sure.
I bet you can't even colour in between the lines, can you?
Charlie, stop it. No, just... Hang on, we need more juice. Right, we're just cleaning up these this windscreen channel here, and there's these little retaining clips, I guess, and they're there to allow the windscreen moulding to be sort of held in place. And I've got a couple of new ones here, spares from the XW, and they're just like a clip like that, and they slide over. That one's a bit bent there. I just knock them down with a drift in the centre there, and then that little flat edge sits against there, the bottom, and the top part secures the trim between there and, of course, where the turret is. Now what's happened is there's 3 all along here, so I'm going to put those in, and to put them in you can of course get the right rivets, which look like this, and they're actually a prop rivet which breaks off and allows that top thing there to hold that clip in. So it's just like a conventional rivet. And whenever you're putting this sort of thing in, just get a drill gauge and just make sure you do the right size hole, because if it's too loose, of course, it's just going to pull out and it's no good. So 3mm is too tight, 3.5 is probably a bit sloppy, so I'm tipping it 3.2mm, which is 1/8 of an inch. So we can pop a few holes in where the old ones were and secure these before I start pour 15ing this area. Just put our little rivet in. This gun's had it, by the way, and put it in. It's hard with the camera there, but we managed it, which is cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour 15 all around these windows. Now there's 2 reasons for it. The first one is obviously it gives you rust protection and that sort of thing, and also in the drip rail there. But the other thing it does is when they fit the windscreen to this car, because it's not going to have a fitting kit, it's going to be put in with urethane. And the primer they use with urethane is very stable with 2-pack paints and also pour 15. With acrylic it can sort of react with the acrylic, and you don't want that because I assume it would lift it and compromise the seal of the screen. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to paint this. Whoopsie. I'm going to paint this all in pour 15, and then I'm going to mask it off, an area of it off, paint the car, and then take the masking off so the pour 15 is exposed. Now the only downside of that I know about, and I have to speak to my windscreen guy about this, is if the windscreen doesn't have a black band or something protecting the edge of it above where the sealant is, which I think it does, I just can't remember what it looks like, pour 15 isn't UV stable, so it could break down. But I want to make sure, I need to ring the windscreen guy and speak to him about how it's going to look. I'm assuming those chrome, oh they're not chrome, unless the black trims will cover all that and you won't see any of it anyway. But as long as it's not exposed to UV, we should be good. I'm still not happy with this, it's not clean enough. So I'll just go around and I'll keep cleaning it before I put the paint down. Okay, this is the map reading light from above the glove box in the GXL. It's the same as a Fairmont LTD one. This is actually out of that ZH I bought. And the switch has been broken out, there's nothing there. I don't know why it's like this, it's been disconnected, but that's just how I found it in the car, so I think they've just sort of ripped it off, I'm not sure. But the problem is finding a switch that's going to suffice for this. Now this is the same type of push button switch that you would find in a 60s and 70s sort of bedside light. And I managed to find one here, that's the sort of thing it is. And that was from J-Car, and it was $1.95. Now I missed an auction to buy one of these. It was $15, which is quite cheap. Some sellers are asking $40 for these, which is stupid, but I guess if they can get it, good luck to them. So I'm just going to pop this out. That lens just flicks out. You can do it from the other side, it's probably the right way to do it. I'm just going to get it from there. There we go. And there's the remains of it. I'm hoping this fits actually, I'm not so sure that it will. Tighten him down. There we go. I might clean that lens up a bit. We'll just see if it works. You know, if we can get out of this whole fix for $1.95, that is pretty good. It's true. Strike with the iron's hot, eh? Gosh, this is brilliant. It's like buying a genuine Ford part. Actually fits better than a lot of the repro parts, this. And I'm just going to get that wire in a bit further. Oh, let's road test that, see how it goes, eh? Cool. Doesn't get much better than that, does it? A nice map light fixed for under $2. Kids at school would call that poo change. Cool. Right, well I want to talk a little bit about Pork 15. We're ready to put some of that on the car now. Here's the product here. It comes with its own instruction sheet, which I sort of mentioned last time, and some of the do's and don'ts of it and the products they sell and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of information there. Make sure you familiarise yourself with that before you begin. And of course the solvent. But that's only two of the things I want to talk about. Now obviously we're going to start with a bit of PPE. And of course my mask is now looking a little bit dirty because I've been sanding and doing all sorts of stuff with it. So I'm just going to replace the cartridges, and they just come off like that. And there's different types of cartridges for different applications, and this is organic vapors, so I'm just going to take those off, and they come vacuum sealed. Thing is, I need to replace the elastics as well, so we'll just take those off, and on there should be a date somewhere. I think that, oh, it's not marked. And this is a 3M mask. These aren't expensive, but they're very, very good. If you can smell solvent while you're working, something is wrong. So they can go in the waste. And we can also change that particle filter, and you can see how dirty that is. They're only cheap. Just bang some new ones in. They come in a box of 10. As I said, they're very, very reasonable. I'll just wipe this out. Or we can just put it in, and they just click over. And we'll do the other side as well. So we've got our mask all set up now, so that's cool. Now, a lot of people probably wouldn't bother using a mask when they're using POR, but I do because the instructions tell you to. So that's all good. Gloves, of course, if you get this on your skin, as I said in the last video, it's not going to come off very easily at all. The friend I had, Michael, who did the welding on the XW's daughter, got it on her arm, and I think it was a week or 2 weeks of pretty frequent showers to get rid of it. As I said, about the only thing that's going to move it are natural skin oils that are going to dislodge it from underneath. So we've got that sorted. I'm using a dust coat, well, because I want to. You don't really have to, but I don't want it getting on my arms or anything because I don't like the smell of the solvent. Now the solvent doesn't smell like a normal solvent. It has almost a kind of like a formaldehyde smell about it. I don't know what's in it. Any product that's as brilliant as this isn't going to be made of very nice stuff. So we have to protect ourselves when we use it. Gloves, obviously, disposable brush, and I've also got a shopping bag here. Just a plastic shopping bag, and the reason I've got that is after I've finished doing the first application, I'm going to wrap this up in the bag and put it in the fridge. 6 hours time when it's ready to be recoated, then I can just take it out and reuse it. It won't have gone hard. If I leave it out, then it's going to get hard and I can't use it. Can opener, people use screwdrivers, I hate that. I've also got a hammer and a nail here. Now when we take the lid off, these things only seem to seal once very well. They don't seem to reseal very well after you've opened them the first time. It's jet black. I'm going to knock 4 little holes in that rim there. Now what that'll do is it'll drain that out, and so not a lot of paint will sit in that rim. Now if the paint sits in that rim, you can forget about getting the lid off if it dries. Now in knocking holes in there, people are critical of that because then it's only going to seal on the outside edge, but the point is this can's never going to get old. So I'm not too fussed about it. But in saying that, I've got cans of acrylic paint in here that I've had for well over 10 years and the paint's still good, and I do it to every single can. And so you just take it out there. So there's 4 little holes in there, that's good to go. I'll just throw that on the ground. Glad wrap. Now the reason I've got glad wrap here is, here's an old little can of POR 15. You fold it into quarters, put it on top, knock the lid on, and that way you can always get the lid off. But in saying that, they still do tend to stick down, and they don't seem to seal too well. So only get the size can that you're going to need, and that is around about it, I think. Also probably a rubber mallet to knock the lid on again. Now this stuff self-levels. It's going to go around wherever there's been surface rust. Well, there wasn't any there actually, but maybe the seams will go in as well. And just cut it on. I'll just go around wherever there's been metal. When this dries, you can't get it off concrete or anything. It's really, really, really tough. You probably don't need a mask. I've got this on because I'm sort of working under the dash, and it's really, really, I just don't want to inhale it. So anywhere I put seam sealer, I've taken all this out, I'm going to pour it, and then put the seam sealer on, then I'll paint it. This car's in such good condition, it probably doesn't need all this, but if it's a good preventative, it's a good idea. Just sort of brush it back into the seam as well. And I'll just continue going now, I think. Really get it up in those seams. And if I go down here as well. And I'm also going to go all around here, on the sill, everywhere. So I'm doing it all over the rust repairs, under here. You don't have to go too thick with it, it'll run. But that'll all settle back, and I can give it another coat later. These areas look pretty good. There's a tiny, tiny little hole there that I can't get behind. I'm going to try and weld that up, and I'll just use a die grinder to smooth it off. But around here, I've drilled those out. You can see where my fingers are. There's holes under there. Now I didn't even know about those. There was no bubbling. There was no bubbling whatsoever. I found it because this seam here was a bit swollen out. I could feel that it was a bit swollen, and so I've drilled those out, and they're going to be a pig to do. And I'll just cut this out and make a new patch for in there. But I just wanted a break from doing this stuff because it annoys me a bit. Down here I've started, wait for the camera to adjust the light. It's scaly under here, but it's still solid. I can wipe all that back. I've just started taking that top skin off. And I'll make a patch, weld it in, and then that's done. But this is sort of, I've also got to continue to take all this off down here and along the back as well. I haven't done that yet. But if this is the worst of what the car's got to offer, I just don't care, because the rest of it, every bit of paint I've taken off, is looking really, really good. Uncovering a few areas as I strip paint that need attention. I'm just making a little patch here with a boot rail, and I'm almost at the end. I've got most of it done, and there's just 3 little patches. This is the big one. It's like missing cement, this. Oh, nice. Knock it off. Hey, do you want to eat some raw and see what it's like?
Yeah, I know.
I know what it will taste
Have
like.
you tasted it before? Have
No, I just have common sense.
you? That's actually disputable.
No, it's not.
Now I poured a couple of days ago, and I thought I'll try and save the brush. It's still flexible, and it's been in the freezer. So you put it in the fridge, and it's sort of gone the next day. You can use it that day. Put it in the freezer a couple of days later. It looks like I might still be able to use it. Well, I got most of the bolts back. There's only a few others I need to get done, but their work's absolutely beautiful. Now this whole lot came to $65. Even the washer jets, which I found in the Fairmont. Bonnet springs, caster rod bits and pieces. There's all sorts of stuff. That'll be off the idler arm bracket. There's all sorts of stuff here I need to go through. That's the boot striker and catalogue. So I don't know. Well, it's a shocker. A shocker mount. Sorry, that's the handbrake. There is. Oh, that's one of the radius rod ones. Anyway, whatever the case, there's a stack of stuff in here, and I've got to sort of go through it all. And I'm really excited because I've got them back now, and I can then start to sort of work everything out. And you run the risk of forgetting things if you don't get them done sooner than later. That's, oh, these are good. Yeah, they're done. But if you look at these, as I said, I've said this a few times before, these are $2 each for new ones. And that whole thing, and there's got to be 1,000 bits in here. There are a lot of nuts and bolts in here, and all up $65. So that shouldn't be on there. So, you know, it's a bit of a steal really, considering what this would all cost if I bought it new. Just beginning to sort through some of the larger stuff before I start doing all the nuts and bolts. Got the caster rod bolts, the floor blanks, bits and pieces of door striker there, the boot latch. Everyone knows what these things are. There's hieroglyphics of these on the walls of King Tut's tomb. Bits of handbrake over there, sway bar, hardware, absolutely everything. Just got to get into this stuff now. Still sorting through this stuff. These are actually from the backing plates and drum brakes, and I'm putting this on so I don't need those. Door hinge bolts, panel bolts, all 5/16 stuff, nuts, all sorts of stuff. There's two sets of fuel tank bolts there. I don't know why there's two sets. All this sort of stuff. These things here look like wiper motor, door mechanism, door latch mechanism, all sorts of stuff. Even engine stuff. That's a harmonic balancer and throttle stay. Power steering bolts, which are supposed to be black. But I just chucked them all in the box because I'm mangy and manky. So there's all sorts of stuff there, and there's also more screws and bits and pieces to sort out in there, and I've already started banging and tagging. So you probably don't actually need to. I know you could just sort of stick all this stuff on a bench and rummage through it every time, but I'd prefer to be more organised. Well, I've run into a bit of a snag. I've got this carbon canister bracket, and that sort of fits down. Excuse all that, I haven't finished smoothing it out, but that sort of fits down there like that. Now the problem is this ridge here. So if you can see along there, and that's common to XAs and XBs, which is what this is from. And in fact, the XB one has another sort of reinforcement that runs sort of down here. Now I flatten that out because this is where this has been welded in. There's a little pock hole there, I've got to feel that too. This is where this has been welded in. Now XCs, that ridge down there just stops, and this part's all flat to allow for this. Now what that means is it's going to have a washer or two under it or something, some form of, I won't use washers, I'll make up spaces so they look a bit better. And the load at the back will be taken up by the bracket. Now the bracket was all chopped up, and it also levelled out the studs as they came through, so I've got to re-drill those. I've just made up this little bracket here. Now what that'll do is I'll just weld a couple of 5/16 bolts in there. These are non-zinc coated, so I can weld those up. I don't have to sand them back or grind them back, I should say. So I'll weld those in. I've marked from behind. I'm going to put the holes, and that can sit in from behind, which will distribute the load. There's not much load on a carbon canister, but it'll distribute the load, so we won't have any issue. And rather than weld this in, I'll just put a little bit of seam seal behind there, and stick it up against the firewall, and it'll hold it quite nicely. So that's the way we're getting around that. So I've just put a couple of nuts and washers there just to hold these down while I weld them, and that'll fit absolutely beautifully. So that's cool. Look. I got that up a bit too high, I think. And there's the finished article there. So again, I'll use washers to space the the canister out, and then once I ascertain how big they or how thick they need to be, I'll just make spaces on a lathe. Looks better than washers. And not bad news at all. You can see all along here. Absolutely beautiful. I've just got to go around the taillights and everything now, but it's all good. And it's the same on this side. Absolutely perfect. So I'm very happy with that. There's the patch I welded in there. It needs a little bit of tidying up, but now we're rust free. Just taking this Y wheel off, the angle grinder, and I bought 2 of these for the XW. I bought an expensive stainless steel one, which was I think $35. This is a mild steel one, which was $15. And these ones last a lot better, or seem to last a lot better than the stainless ones. And the other advantage with them, of course, is you can pick up any little wires off the driveway with a magnet. So these mild steel ones, I reckon, are far better and a lot cheaper. And this paint removal disc is around about expired now. That's ready for the trash, but these are really reasonable as well, and if you go slow with them, they do last a long time. Now acrylic paint just wipes off with these, but as I said before, don't use them with enamel. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about seam sealers, and this is the stuff here. It's Coropa. Don't know the proper way of pronouncing it, but this is like you find on Toyotas and that sort of stuff. It's like a rubbery mastic type stuff that's fully paintable. I've used it on the inside of the car. I'll show you that in a minute. The other stuff, of course, that I've used before is this, and this is like a adhesive sealant, and it's almost like Sikaflex, I guess. And I used that in the drip rails of the XW when I did that, and it dries like a very, very, very hard rubber, and it's hellish to get off. So that's also fully paintable as well. In fact, I used that around the seams in the XW. I didn't know about this stuff, but I was recommended this, and I've used it inside. It's very easy to use. A bit like no more gaps on the inside of your house, but it's obviously the automotive version. Very easy to use. This is inclined to be very easy to get messy, and it's harder to smooth over. But in saying that, your seam sealing doesn't really need to be smooth anyway. But I've gone with both. I was recommended that for the drip rail, but I didn't want to use that. I've used this before, and I've got a little bit more trust in that where that's concerned. I don't know why, maybe I'm wrong, but I've used both on this car, and I'll show you in a moment what I've done. Started putting seam sealer down, all up there and along here, very untidy. I figured it didn't matter because Ford run tidy, but I was actually in a stupid mood and did around those welds, and those welds were quite neat. I don't know why I did that. I don't know, maybe it's just because I had the gun in my hand and decided to keep going with it, but once the floor is painted it won't matter, but I shouldn't have done that. I regret that now. But the good news out of all this is I'm now finished the metalwork on the shell, so now what I've got to do is start preparing it for paint. That's fantastic. Just got to take a bit more paint off, and I'll take that seam sealer off there. Everything is in such good condition. Got to get more off there too. In that corner. It's pretty hard to be disappointed with this car because the more paint I take off, the happier I become. Still removing paint, and around the filler there was all untidy, so the easiest way I found to get rid of all that paint was with the wire wheel on the ankle grinder and just sort of get it out that way. That's all I got for the second lot of plating, which are the 4 door locks. There's a boot lock and a couple of little floor things, but that's all there is. All I need is the I need the bonnet lock and the spring and the little bonnet tick thing that hangs down, and that will pretty much do the whole car, I think. So the minimum is $65. That other thing, there must have been 1,000 bits and pieces in there, was sort of up to here, and that was only $65. So I'm not tipping this would be too much more. If anything, it should be less. So, what is it about chocolate crackles that I'm interested in? It's not really the chocolate crackles, it's more these little cupcake things. And in each one of these, I put a sample of paint. Now, this one's the Pour 15. That's a bit of acrylic, and that's a bit of enamel. And you can see straight away with the enamel one, it stays soft. Now, I did these a fortnight ago, and it's still soft. The acrylic one snaps. Still got a bit of give in it, but it'll just snap. It's a lot harder than enamel. Whereas the pour is really hard. So hard, in fact, that I need a hammer. Bloody hell. If it had been longer, it would have snapped. But I can't even bend. I can just bend it. And I'm putting all my strength into it. What about a shifter? I can cut it with side cutters. And these are Nipex ones. These ones were $70. It is the toughest coating you can think of. But be warned, you have to use an etch primer with this, because if you brush this stuff onto good, clean, fresh metal, it'll just peel off. And I had that trouble, and I had to take it off and redo it. But having said that, once it's on, it is really tough. And in fact, this hasn't been long enough. Had it been longer, and I think it was this can here, had a dome-shaped bit of pour in it, and I could not even break it. I had to use a like a shrinking hammer with it to smash this shell. It had like a big shell in it. And there it is there. Let's go get a shrinking hammer and see if we can break it. So we can see that shell under there. I'll try and break this top one. I'm hitting. Oh, got it. I cracked it there. I think I got in. Yeah, I just broke it there. See that? That is how tough that stuff is. It is absolutely ridiculously strong. So you really need to make sure it's all etched. See, there's the edge of it there. I haven't done a very good job. So some of it is going to have to come off again. I've gone in the plenum and so on. But as far as rust-proof paint's concerned, there is absolutely nothing stronger than the Pour 15. Well, here she is, all primed up, although there are a few repairs I still need to do. Under both front wheel arches, I've done that in a black etch primer, that's fine. That still has to be painted, and of course underneath I have to take all the all that deadener off underneath and clean that up. The floor looks awful because I've just given it one coat of paint and it's sort of drunk it up, so I'll give it the second coat and just leave it at that. The only reason that's there really is so if you lift a carpet up, it's not immediately obvious that it was the wrong or a different coloured car. Everything looks really, really good though. It's positive. There's a little run there, got to rub that out. There's all sorts of little imperfections in it. There's one there, that's got to come out. So, only a little bit of priming in the boot. But, it's a lot further on than it was. So, there's another little thing. There's one there, another little imperfection. But, this car's going to have imperfections all over the place because it isn't perfect at all. What annoyed me actually was this radiator support panel, and I was sort of feeling around it. You can see I've put a patch in, quite a large patch too, because I was feeling around it was about 1 millimetre thick on the edge, just here. But as you get in here, it's sort of 5/16 3/8 thick, and I thought, here we go, more filler. And so, I mean, I've put a tiny bit over the welds I've done. You can just see there that has to be repaired as well. But anyhow, I took all the filler off, and it was more of this stuff. More of these big holes filled in with weld, which has just buckled the thing. and that sort of went up there like that. So I was annoyed with that. I thought I was done with patches and that sort of thing in the boot with the last 2 patches near the wheel tubs, but I had to do that one as well. So it's no big deal. It's all good. Engine bay's all done. Again, I'll probably get in there and sort of smooth out a few things, but really at the end of the day, these cars were fairly rough anyhow in the way they were pressed, so I don't really care. Once it's painted, of course, it's going to look really, really good. That's about it, really. Haven't painted the firewall yet. I'll do that black. I'll do under the wheel arches black, and I'll do the boot black as well. This will be a semi-flat black, and this is the only time I've ever painted over speed nuts. I hate that, but I thought I'd break them taking them off. I had a good go at getting them off, but they've got little hooks in them both sides, so I just left them there. That's all covered by a dash pad anyway. So, here is my XC Fairmont. Absolutely 100% rust free, and the best bit was I bought a 1 kilo can of bog, and it's still got a tiny bit left in it. So, this is pretty much filler free as well. So in the next chapter we will have the floor painted properly, we'll have the wheel arches painted, we'll have the dash painted. I've got to do all the black under here. Actually no, I'll do that after I've painted it white. I might have the car painted too. I'm not sure. I'm not even game to say, because whatever I say in these next video things is always incorrect. So, hope you've enjoyed it. Have a lovely day. Drive safely, and I'll see you later. Ta-da!